with John Harris Jr. on this lovely set that Sahan owns. I'm on a set of drums here, and I do not play this brand. And we're going to talk about gear and play some gear and that sort of thing. So, John, the first thing you did here is you swapped out your cymbals, other cymbals for your cymbals. And you've played a lot of brands over the years, so have I. And right now you settle on Istanbul Agop, which is a very, very popular brand of cymbals. So what's the secret sauce here about these things?
The dryness. I think the dryness for me, for what I do, it covers a lot of ground. The rides are, that's typically, if we be honest, most applications today, you really hear less ride for what I've been playing as of late. And I love a ride that I can use as a crash too. So Agop has provided that pretty much what I need or what I'm looking for. Hi-hats, cleaning out the way, sorry.
Well, and did you hear the ching in there? You got a couple tambourines in between
code.
the
This is a cheat.
cheat code.
Put tambourines on the inside to get that nice, clean chick sound for 13s. Anything small, you put tambourines in there. It gives you a nice, clean sound, I found, opposed to having to put it on top and get it caught on the stick. So, yeah.
And you're mixing and matching lines here too. You got exist dry hats. Are those 13s you said?
13s, yep.
Like a 19 or 20 exist dry crash?
21.
21. We got a big boy. 21 exist dry crash. And what is this one here? Signature? What do they call it?
30th anniversary and a 20.
Okay. All right, cool. I have cymbals here too.
What are you using?
Okay, so now I play a lot of different stuff. I'm very fortunate that I've got relationships with a lot of manufacturers, one of those being Turkish cymbals. Mm-hmm. I'm playing, I think, Brian, are these all your cymbals?
Yep.
Brian from Music Around cymbals here, because all of mine are in a different continent. But what I've got here is some 15-inch vintage Soul hats, 22-inch vintage Soul ride. And this is actually a prototype, super thin 22-inch crash. They made, I think, an 18, a 20, a 22, and a 24. I have the 24. This 22 here is very, very cool. Does the one thing very, very well. The vintage Soul is an interesting line. It's supposed to be like 50s, 60s A Zildjian type of cymbals. They're cool. It's not something I play all the time, but anybody can get away with this stuff. Yeah. For me, what's more important are the heads and the drum and the snare drum for sure. So heads and sticks. I'm a Diodario artist, so I gotta talk about that.
Yeah. Now
you're Remo and Vader.
Vader, yes. Shouts out to Vader.
And what's so interesting is every brand, every drummer has these brands that they fall in love with. Yeah. And you've been Vader for ever, right?
I have. Well, I'll tell. Vader has a bunch of options for me, and believe it or not, I alternate between Sweet Rides and Manhattan 7As. If I need something a little bit more beefier, as far as something where I have to lay into the music, I'll do West Side.
What's the advantage of using the smaller sticks most of the time?
It's the in and out with I think the clarity with the tip for me.
So it's more the tip shape then? Or with it being on a more articulate, you're able to articulate a little differently with that smaller stick?
I can create a little bit differently with the tip. Okay. So for me, stuff where if I'm playing, one of my all-time favorites, Jay Dilla does stuff where a lot of his stuff is unquantized off the grid. So if this is just that's Mama's Gun, Did You Know, by Eric Badu. That's just now if I wanted to do something in doing that, and it's more, I can do.
You're articulating, but it also seems like that smaller stick can move a little easier from one playing surface to another.
Yeah, it gives me more creative freedom to move around the kit a little faster.
And And you're still going to hit other things that you don't want to hit along the way.
True.
The plague of all drummers. But no, I totally agree with you on getting a smaller stick to do the things that you want to do, because I've had the same thing happen to me over the years. I played death metal through my early 20s, and the last death metal gig I played, I was playing Vader, Fatback 3As, which is like playing a tree branch.
Yeah.
And I was playing blast beats at, 200 to 240 BPM singles, 200 to 240 BPM for whatever half hour, 45-minute set.
Was you angry?
I was an angry young man. Yeah, I've been in therapy for many years now, which has helped, but playing that set, that was the last set I played, because playing that hard, I was a very, very high volume drummer. I was not I didn't use triggers or samples, and that was hard to do in that time. And playing very fast on a Evans hybrid head at the time, which is like playing on a tabletop. It's a hybrid marching head. Every joint up every finger on both my hands throbbed for 3 days after that gig. And it was so scary because I'd never had an injury like that before after playing. So I reapproached the entire way that I hold a stick and throw a stick after that, and I learned from some of the best educators in Milwaukee at that point, jazz guys.
Yeah.
And as part of that process, I went from playing those bigger sticks. Mm-hmm. So now I play a 5A. Mm-hmm. These are the ProMark Rebound Active Grips. I use active grips because no matter how many frickin' moisturizers I use, my hands are still frickin' dry. So I got to use the active grip. But the Rebound, that's another special part of the formula too, is I think Vaders are often forward weighted.
Yep.
So that means when you hold the stick, it wants to go forward.
Yep.
And with the Rebound, it wants to come back after you throw it. So for the way that I throw a stick, this wants to come back a lot more, which means I have to put less effort in to getting each stroke out of the stick. I think that helps a lot too. So it's just like all these little things make such a big difference.
Yeah.
Not only in the character or the intention that you put behind your drumming, but in the mechanics, the particular nerdy dude stuff that actually does what we want to do, on the kit.
A buddy of mine, we had this conversation in regards to drumsticks, and the conversation always ends with, you have to find what works for you. And he's been back and forth with Vader, not Vader, sorry, Vic Firth and ProMark. Mm-hmm. Vic Firth's another good company, but I mean, for me, I like to use brushes, mallets, slapsticks or specialty sticks, and a whole bunch of unnecessary stuff to get.
It's more textures.
Sounds. Yeah. So for me, it's always been easy to just whatever I needed with. I like it's not all the way to butt end. They cut it off. Mm-hmm. You see that? They kind of made it flat. I used to care about the butt end where it was like I needed to be rounded like Big First, but now it's just more. I mean, this.
What are you using the butt end on these for? Like, can you play something that you're like? What is?
Generally, if I'm using this, it's a different sound. I get more of a. It's almost like an in out for me. I know it sounds real weird, but
like in the sustain of the note or the
sustain feel, depending on how
feel for sure.
Sahan's drums are great, but how I would tune my drums is more, and this is just something that I've learned and picked up. My rack will be jazzy. Mm-hmm. My floor will be gospel R&B.
Like a lower note, a lower pitch.
Yeah.
Probably a quicker sustain because of that tuning.
Yeah, but I love the singing of a 10. Like that.
And you tune it up so it's more of a... So that's an interesting thing that I don't think a lot of us talk about nowadays too, is like, at least not in the circles that I'm in, but like, you can make a 4-piece drum kit feel like a ton of different instruments if you tune that way. Because I mean, these are my setups, right? Like 20, 12, 14. And the reason I like that is because I can bring up a 12... especially if it's a vintage drum, almost up to the pitch of a modern 10-inch drum.
Yeah.
And then I can use that 14 as a nice big floppy floor tom. And then I have such versatility in the types of sounds that I'm able to pull out of three little drums.
That's the thing, I think, where I found a liking or more of a liking with Ludwig even in just the breakbeat kits where you have the 10 and then the 13, 16-inch kick, it goes down to head choice, but then how you tune it.
Yeah.
But then overall, like Shane said earlier, it's the player. As I mentioned, your character as well. So it's a bunch of different things that you put in the pot that gives you a unique sound. But for me, it's almost like, and we all can agree. Give us something, we'll make it sound great. Even the worst of the worst kits.
A CB700 maybe.
The JCPenney kit, as Sahan calls it.
John, I was gonna ask you, do you tune the two toms differently because you often don't use them at the same time? 'Cause when I think about the way you play, I don't think about a lot of like going around the kit fills. It's a lot of like kick snare fills, kick snare hi-hat fills, really quick ones. So do you tune like your rack and your floor kind of with two different voicings because you do like a snare to floor fill and like a snare to rack fill, or like that Al Green break where you hit he does that one hit on the rack tom and it's like super like bop high? Is that why you tune that way, or is it just like?
That's part of it, but I think as of late, quick disclaimer, I used to just run kick floor tom for like the longest, and I used to hate using the rack tom because I didn't want. And the reason I didn't put a rack tom, I didn't want you to call on me to do a solo. So I was like, I'm not doing solos. Let me just eliminate the rack to avoid getting, we're going to get a drummer. Not today. So I went back to, I said, you know what, let me just dive into it, because now I want guys to see how to tell a story in a solo opposed to you just flying around the kit. No, and I love seeing it, but it's more in the context for people that don't understand. You have to be able to give them something where they can, like, oh, okay, he was real melodic, versus you're playing like Mike Mitchell. Sorry, Mike, if you see this, you're still the greatest. Well, one of the greatest. But for me, it was more like I took the approach of I want to be able to tell my end of the story where you understand it. So I started tuning, like I said, I tuned the 10 high because I love jazz. Hands down, love jazz. Any type of jazz, freeform, whether it be classic, acid, bop, whatever. This, I always loved the
singles.
You have to have it mirror your kick.
The kick. Yeah.
And that's why it's always, I need a lot of bottom with the floor tom, but I tuned it more so just for character purposes. Back to the character thing. And voicing purposes, because I want you to understand, like, it's okay to let that 10 ring a little bit. It's not a bad thing, but we kind of, like, try to choke it. It's like a bad kid in the store where it's like they want, like, I got to use the bathroom. It's like, wait a minute, but it's kind of like that. It's a weird analogy, but.
That's the first time I've heard that analogy in my lifetime. I like it. I'm here for it.
Copyright it. It's yours.
I'll get it.
Yours.
We'll give it to music around. Now, Shane, I'd be interested to hear your perspective on tuning, just because this is your job, is to make these things sound good under microphones. Like, what do you do?
Well, I mean, there's, a lot of it depends on what you're wanting or what the drummer wants. I have the tuned drums. So I'm still, there's always room for improvement, but I only got better at tuning drums when I started recording bands, because before then, like most drummers, you kind of just I feel like most drummers don't really even think about tuning the drums.
Yeah.
Or they just put a head on, then they tighten it up, and then it's like the top head is the only thing getting the attention. And the bottom heads are like, they just crank them as tight as it will go. And I would only tune my drums, or attempt to tune my drums, the night before my band was going to go record, in which I'm also then in our dungeony practice space, which sounds terrible. So you're trying your best to tune. There's a science to tuning the drum, and also, like, if the room that you're in is fighting you, you do the best you can with what you have, but like it makes it it's challenging. Like with a guitar player or a bass player, you can tune there's a pedal, and you're tuning all, like band practice, you're tuning 10 times throughout, like you're tuning your instrument all of the time. with tuning drums, unless you're doing it all of the time, or even just once a week, and I'm talking like rip the heads off, put them back on. Like,
Yeah.
don't just leave them on and try and tinker. Like, start from scratch. And so I only got better at it because I had all these bands coming in, and the drummers were like, "I don't know how to tune. Do you know how to tune?" I'm like, "Well, I guess I have to figure it out." So like, I just got better at it over 17 years of doing it, and all the different kinds of drums, all the different kinds of drummers, like, and as well as I've also learned a ton about this stuff through the bands that would come in. We were talking earlier about our friend John Gleisner, who played in a band called Northless. He was instrumental for me in like giving me a heads up. With like, we both had the same size kick drum at the time, it was a 28. It was a 28 by 14 kick, and I was playing with just a coated Emperor as my batter, and the stock like Ludwig, single ply front head, paper thin.
Yeah.
Not what you want for a kick drum. John brings his drum in one day with an Aquarian Super Kick 2 on the batter and a Remo fiber skin Power Stroke 3 weight on the front. Same drums, same size. Hits his kick drum, and I'm like, John, what the hell? Like, what did you do? And he's like, oh, dude, head combination. I was like, why didn't I think of that? So it was years ago, but like, I also should have known. But you don't know what you don't know. So, but yeah, like with tuning drums, the biggest thing again, a conversation like with the drummer, like, what do you want your drums to sound like? Like if someone's having a hard time with it, with getting the source to where like to what they hear in their head. Generally, it's just it's tuning, head combination, sometimes the shell, the different kind of drum. But assuming that you have the source, the drum set that you can get the sound from. If you're looking for like a nice open natural ringing kind of sound, I kind of prefer clear heads because I would rather be able to dampen them.
Yeah.
If you start with coated heads, they're already a little dampened, and I'm talking like in studio environment. But like, do you want both heads to be the same pitch? Lowering that bottom head or tightening the bottom head slightly, but like will change the sound drastically.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's such a like, I'm sure I will say this many times, but like just like like a drum kit is like, it is a lifelong like journey. To just understand how it works, what the possibilities are, like learning, and that's just to tune the damn thing, like you know what I'm saying. But then there's like all these different like what kind of cymbals you're using, all of this stuff, and yeah, and then how do you play it, like how the person hits. I mean, yeah, it's I don't know, like the possibilities. It's kind of like option paralysis, so it's kind of overwhelming. But you gotta start somewhere, and it's if you're nerds like us, it's fun. But yeah, I don't know if I'm rambling a lot. So don't know if I answered answered your question, but you just turn the things until they sound good, Tim.
That's just about it. I mean, I think there's some people who try to turn tuning a drum into a science. Mm-hmm. You have like tension watches. Or you have like what's that robot drum dial, and then there's the robot. What the heck is that? Drum boy. None of these. I don't.
Your ear is the best thing.
I totally
train your
agree.
ear and learn how. Like I've gotten to the point where I can get. I'm not bragging by that, but just like any drummer that spends some time with your snare drum or in your drums, you can eventually get to the point where you're tuning them pretty quick. Just by just how you feel the tension.
Oh, that's the big tool for me.
Like not even even before you hear the drum, like you can feel the tension get there. I mean, I'm talking like, you will get, for any young players, like you will get to that point, and it's quite exciting to get to that point when you're like, especially when you found like, I mean, we all have a bunch of snares, whatever, but like when you find like your voice on the kit and the kit, and you have this stuff. You kind of, I know this sounds cheesy, but you kind of do become one with that kit, and once you get to that point, you can throw all those toys away, like the drum dials. I mean, I'm not trying to throw shade on those things. They're handy for some folks, I guess, but I just feel like it's better to just get in there and get your hands dirty
Yeah.
and learn how to, rip your drum apart, put it back together, get it to sound the way you want it to sound. Experiment with all the different kind of heads until you find your voice. But once you do, yeah, like
You're there.
then you're there.
Yeah.
So
I think another thing too. Sorry to.
No, please.
I think guys need to understand the difference too with the snares, as far as wood snare versus a metal, steel, or aluminum. Because guys will gut tighten a wood snare, and then you're cracking the actual shell, you're cracking the lug, versus a steel snare, and it's like you have range, and you see guys come in with that gunshot snare, and it's like, dude, this is a maple snare. Like, what are you doing? So I think understanding that as well is important too. But you should just know. I feel like you should just know. Kind of like what Shane says. You feel it in the tension. Once you get to it and it hears that, it's like a pop.
Yeah.
That's where you know, all right, I need to stop where I am right here. This is it. And it's generally the glue cracking, I think it is.
Yeah.
But it's like at that point, okay, stop. Because then what happens is once that glue cracks right there, let it sit, come back.
Almost like setting it.
Yep, and then go right back to it.
So that's one way to do it. Some people do that. Brian and me both, I think, have. Now we are two big boys, if I may say so. Would you be in agreement with the big? And we will still, when we're putting on bass drum heads, stand on these things, put a little weight on them, and that also sets the epoxy. Now this is getting super nerdy, but that's such an important part of, like, if you're gonna put new heads on your drum set, you have to set those heads.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, you're gonna get it to where you want, and then 5 minutes after playing it, that's gonna have detuned a full note or more.
Yep. Like Shane said, before most gigs, even with the Ludwig kick I just got before using it, I tune every head tight, and then I sit I got a 25 that I sit and let it just sit there for like maybe an hour. Then I take everything off, retune
Like
it
a
back.
25-pound weight.
Yep. Take everything off, retune it back, and then it's almost like, okay, now we cook, because now you can find your sweet spot, and it just sounds better.
Now, see, you could be using that 25-pound weight, or you could just eat about 25 cheeseburgers. You might be at the point where you could just stand on these.
Oh,
drums
see
for
that,
5 seconds.
but then my movement, my mobility would be different, so I wouldn't be as fluid as I would like to.
That's fair.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah, what do you got?
This is more for, like, typical rock toms, not so much for higher jazz toms. But one trick that I did learn, which when you're putting on new heads, is and this is assuming that, like, your lugs aren't rusty or not, like assuming that the tension lugs are easy to turn. But if you put the heads on and get everything finger tight, but then over each lug, just with pressure of your hand, push down. Tighten it.
I do that too.
Do that all the way around.
Oh, yeah.
Do that all the way around, and generally speaking, you're pretty
almost
in the
there.
ballpark with, like, a good rock and roll tom or kick or something like that. And then just blend or tighten to taste, of course. But I found that was a pretty quick way to get things kind of in the ballpark.
Yeah.